Hello everyone. Today from this short demo, I will show you the newest general availability feature in Azure Kubernetes Service. So uh, in this general availability, Azure has enabled the support for Istio-based service mesh add-on to the Azure Kubernetes Service. This service is in preview for a while from last year, but recently uh, it is going under GA and now it is officially supported for Microsoft uh, support, and you can use it in your Azure Kubernetes service. So let's jump into a terminal and we will see how we can enable this Istio-based add-on in your Kubernetes service. So I already prepared a bash script here. So as you can see, so in this script, it will go through and check whether the cluster is enabled with Istio, or do you have any cluster name that you provided as variables, and if it is not available, this will create a cluster. If the AKS cluster is available but it doesn't have the add-on installed, then this script will install the Istio add-on into your cluster. And if both of these conditions are met, that means if you have the cluster and if you have this Istio enabled, then this script doesn't do anything, so it will show you that it's already enabled. So let me explain this script for you for a moment. So first we have our variables, so we'll get these variables as input from the terminal. Then I will log into the Azure CLI. Then I will select the subscription we have provided as variable. Then what I'll do is I will check whether the the resource group that provided is already exist in the subscription. If it is not existed, then it will go and create a Azure resource group for you. Then next step, from line 32 and 33, it will go and see whether there's a cluster in that specific resource group, and we will query the name and whatever the output, we will redirect it to the dev null, so we are not getting any error messages. So if the cluster is not available, this command will give you error, so we don't need to print it into the terminal, so we'll put it to the dev null and the variable will be empty. So the same thing goes to the line 33. It will check the Istio add-on is enabled. If it is not enabled, it will give you error, or if we give it a blank output, then we will send the output into the dev null. So if there's any errors, it will send it to the dev null. Then from line 36, what we'll do is we have if condition in dash z. What we'll do is it will check whether these variables have empty variables, null variables. If those variables are empty, then we can come to a conclusion that we don't have a cluster and we don't have Istio add-on enabled. So what we can do is we can go and create a cluster with Istio enable. So how we can enable Istio when you're creating a cluster? We need to put the parameter enable --asm. So this will enable the Istio add-on into your AKS cluster. And Next, there's a if else, then in there it will check the cluster name is matched with the cluster name provided, right? Then, and it will check whether the Istio add-on uh, is false. So we have a explanation mark to make it false, and it will check whether Istio add-on variable has Istio value, and if you don't have it, then it will go and enable the service Istio service mesh into the cluster. So here we have new command included under the AKS group. So we have mesh, then we'll enable it into the that specific cluster. Then if you have a cluster with both of these enabled, then you get output that this Istio add-on and the cluster already exist. Okay, now you have some idea about this bash script. So what I'll do is I will run it in the terminal. So I will open a new terminal, right? Then I will run. If you are running it for the first time, make sure you are changing the permission, so you can do it chmod plus x. So this will make sure that your shell script is executable, right? So then if you put ls dash la, you can see that this has a separate color, and you have the execution permission, right? Okay, now what I'll do is I will run this command, run this shell script. Then I will provide the input values that are needed. So the first one will be your cluster name, then the second value will be your resource group name, the third value should be your location, and the fourth value will be your subscription ID. So I will press enter. Then from whatever the default browser, it will open for you to authenticate. So first I will authenticate it. Then I will wait until the authentication succeeded. So now it's succeeded. So okay, now you can see it is completed successfully, and it is creating the resource group, because this is a fresh installation, so I don't have any resource group that are created on the provided name. So it will go and create a sub resource group. Now you can see output message saying that this cluster does not exist, and it will create a cluster with Istio add-on. So now the cluster creation will start with the Istio add-on install. So we'll wait for a moment until this cluster creation is completed. After that, we will come back and see how the cluster is created. Okay, now you can see the cluster creation is completed successfully. So we can verify that the Istio is installed when you take a look at this configuration. So here you can see a specific section for service mesh profile. In there you can find the Istio, and you can see the mode also Istio as Istio. So that means Istio is enabled and is using this specific ASM Azure Service Mesh dash 1 dash 19 version, right? But if you are referring to the documentation, you need to be very careful, because in the documentation this version is mentioned as 80, I think, because at the time of the documentation writing, it is use the service mesh version 18, but now it is updated to the 19. So if you are running any commands, you have to make sure that you are selecting the correct version, right? So you can find it from the cluster commands, right? So now we can see the cluster is completed, creation is completed successfully. Let's jump into the Azure portal. Then if you refresh the portal, you can see the resource group is created. So if you go to the resource group, you can see the case Istio cluster is created, and it is status is running and succeeded, right? So there are some items or resources that you can easily notify the cluster is enabled with Istio, right? So first I will do is I will connect to this cluster. So I will copy the credential command, then I will go to my terminal again, right? Then I will copy paste the credential command. So now you can see my terminal is using the newly created AKS cluster context for interacting with the AKS cluster. Okay. So what I do is first I will type get ns for namespaces. So you can see there are additional namespaces are created from the Istio add-on. So there are three namespaces are created. One is Istio ingress, egress, and ingress, and Istio system. So this AKS Istio system namespace used for running the operator and the Istio control plane. So let's take a look at what are the resources you can find in the Istio system. So get all dash namespace, then I will provide the namespace name. Okay, so here you can see Istio-D pods are running. So you can see two pods are running in this namespace. Then you have Istio-D service, then deployment replica set, and horizontal pod scaler for auto scale in the Istio-D based on the demands and the traffic, right? So these are the main minimum components that you can see. Apart from these resources, you can see few config maps also created. So for example, if you get config maps in Istio system, you can see these config maps are also created for you, right? These config map has different purposes. For example, if you want to enable different features in Istio, you can use this Istio SM dash version config map. But there's a way how to do is we are not going to edit this existing config map. It is not recommended by Microsoft, so we will create a separate config map with our own configuration, and we will create a separate config map for that. I will show you how to do it in the next few minutes, right? So now we have working cluster with Istio enable. Now what we want to do is we want to deploy some application, and we can config our Istio mesh, and we can deploy some application, right? So next what I'll do is I will show you how you can enable features in the Istio. So for that one we are using a separate config map with Istio share dash config map, then asm dash the version that the Istio is running on your cluster. So it's very important to name this and config map as this mentioned in the documentation. So you have to make sure that the Istio version is matched with Istio name is prefix into the config map name. So for example, in this cluster it's running asm dash 1-19, so you have to make sure that you are putting that right name at the end. So here you can see the config map, then the name and the namespace. This should be deployed to the Istio system namespace. If you deploy to that different namespace, it doesn't work. Then you can, under the data, you can specify the mesh configuration. Right. So you can find the detailed mesh configuration that are supported in the Microsoft documentation. There are there are three categories you can find in that configuration. One is blocked, that means these configurations are disallowed and by the add-on, so you cannot use these um, features in the AK's Istio add-on version. It can, and it may support it in the open source version, but at the moment some features are not fully supported in the Istio AKs. So then there are another supported versions, right? So that means it will receive the Microsoft support for you. And allowed category are those are allowed, but they are not covered by the Azure support. So if something goes wrong with those um, mesh configurations, then you are not getting support from the Microsoft. So I will share the documentation for you to see what are the all mesh configurations that are supported or not supported, or you can use, but Microsoft support will not cover. So you can choose and pick which mesh configurations you should use. So for this example, I will use this whole application until proxy starts through. So what I'll do is I will run this config map, then we can see the config map is created in the Istio namespace. So I will use create apply -f Istio-shared config map. Then the config map is created. So if you get config map if the system, you can see the new config map is created, right? So what will happen is these configurations and the default configuration will be merged and applied to the Istio system, right? So you can describe the config map as well. So this is the default config map I have shown you. This describes. So this has some configuration already exists. So let's describe the config map we created. Okay, so now you can see the configurations that are there, right? Okay, now next what I'll do is I will deploy a sample application right? For that, because it's still using sidecars, so because of that we need to uh, label the specific namespace to install the sidecar. So Istio will automatically identify that label and inject the Istio sidecar into the containers for your service mesh configurations, right? So you can name the site, name your specific namespace using the kubectl label command. So here you have to make sure that the version is a match. If this version is not matched with your Istio version, then it won't work. So what I'll do is I will name the uh, namespace, label the namespace. Then I will use this sample book info application to deploy it to the default namespace. Okay, so you can see there are a lot of resources, objects are created, services deployments, and service accounts, and a lot of things are created. So first we'll do is we'll go and keep serial get pods dashboard. Then you can see that there are two containers are creating inside each pod. So one container is the application container, other one is the Istio sidecar. So what we do is we'll describe one of these pod and see the sidecar injection. So okay, describe pod, then we give the pod name. Okay, so here you can see there's a init container for Istio, right? So this init container is used to initialize your Istio sidecar. Then in here you can see the exit code is 0. That means it is completed successfully. In some scenario, if the initialization Istio init is failed, your containers won't get started because it is a init container. So you have to make sure that the init container completed successfully to start other containers. Then under the containers you can find this Istio proxy container. This is the container Istio used to connect or route the traffic or do the all the Istio magic stuff to your pod. Then it contains a lot of variables and mounts, and there are a lot of other things, volumes attached to it. Then let me check. Yeah, so the book app, I can find it. Istio proxy. Yeah. So yeah, you can see the other container here. So you can see the other container details are here as well, right? Okay, so now you have a sample application for you to try out with Istio. In future video I will show you how we can use external and internal gateways in Istio, and we will test other Istio features like path-based routing, then traffic splitting, then like circuit breakers. those kind of things as well. So for the moment, that's all for this video. I hope you have get some idea about Istio and add-on in their case. So let's let's meet you all soon. So take care and goodbye.